Welcome to the HR Insider, the podcast where we dwell into the heart of human resources, exploring the latest trends, insights, and the influential figures who are shaping the HR world. This is your host, Harshal, and today we have the privilege of welcoming Ms. Roshni, a seasoned professional with extensive experience in both strategic and operational aspects of HR. As the Director of HR at NetEnrich, Roshni has led transformative HR initiatives across global markets, specializing in recruitment, employee engagement, and performance management. She embodies a growth mindset, steering organizational development with innovation and strategic vision. Join us as we explore Roshni's journey and insights into the dynamic world of HR. Welcome, Roshni, to the HR Insider podcast.
Hi, Archer. Thank you. That was a very warm welcome.
Our pleasure, Roshni. Roshni, so many thoughts, so many questions I have for you to discuss today. My very first thing I would love to know more about you is your professional journey. Would love you to share your journey in the HR world with all our audience, and yes, we'll take it up from there.
Great. All right. So, this is a very special year as well for me because I will complete 2 decades in this industry as an HR professional. So, yeah, I think it's just been very quick, and yet I feel I've just got started. So, yes, that's an interesting juncture to be at. So, I think I started off as a fresher, and back then, I was part of a very good college where we were forced to do internships year on year. So all we had to do is go fetch internships and understand what organizations are doing, get some role so that you have a glimpse into the corporate world. I had very little knowledge about what really happens in the HR field. Of course, from the textbooks, a little bit, sorts of it. So I just had a hinge that I had to get into HR. So my very first stint was with Standard Chartered Scope, which will always remain special. I got through an interview very randomly, which was into a trade operations, and I
Okay.
knew nothing about it. I don't even know which role I was interviewing. I just went in for an interview. I got selected, and then I told the recruiter, and the recruiter called me and said, "Hey, you're selected, and this is the role, trade operations, and blah 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 around it." And I said, "Okay, all that is great, but I don't need that job. I want to get into HR, so just help me with whatever you can." And then there was a slight pause from the recruiter because we went through this entire line of interviews, and then I throw a bouncer because obviously that time we didn't have maturity that the respective hiring managers would be doing the interviews and all of that. So, but the recruiter has always also been very special because that very first recruiter has been in touch with me until now, has seen me grown
Wow.
and through my professional space. And yeah, it's a very motivational and great conversation that we have today as well. So, but obviously the gentleman obviously obliged and then got me into another line of interviews for HR. And I started off with the HR operations in Standard Chartered Scope. So yes, that was how I got into this HR space, and of course, there was no looking back. Uh, Starting off with HR operations, it gave me an exposure into multiple geographies. I handled HR operations for Asia Pacific, and then moved on to handle for UK and Ireland. Did a lot of transitions of the HR processes for the particular region, and then also moved into then handling US HR operations for some of the clients, and transitioned some of the very critical processes that at first time ever transitioned to India at that point in time. So yeah, there are some really good milestones and exposures to have walked through. But what also gave me, I was very keen that being in the HR space, my heart lied with front ending, meeting people, talking to them, addressing their issues, not just reactively but proactively as well. So I was keen I would come towards the front end, but I think it was a great start, and I would have it no other way to start from HR operations because once you've got the base right about how the processes work and how they have an impact on the experience people go through in the front end of it, right? So I eventually moved to the front end, and I think that has given me an added edge of bridging the processes to experiences that people go through, and being able to do the right thing for the right experience that people need to have. So yes, that has been my journey of 20 years. And I think over the 20 years, I've also learned that as much as HR is 100 or 1000% about people advocacy, and we're here for people at first, right? But even more a crucial role that we play is the strategic role, that how you really bridge people and businesses together, right? So to keep that aligned and in sync, that truly is the key balance that you can bring in this particular role for sure.
I mean, Roshni, congratulations. 20 years, it's a long journey, right? 2 decades.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people talking about it, but with the passion you
Yeah.
have been speaking about, your journey talks about, it would have
Yeah.
been quite a exciting journey. And I'm sure the journey ahead awaits a lot of successful milestones and accomplishment for you. So,
Thank
Roshni, in
you.
this 20 years, you would have seen so many things evolving, changing, the way the HR as an ecosystem has evolved,
Yeah.
the way the HR has been playing such a critical, I was a contributing factor towards an organizational growth, right? So HR has itself has come a long way in last 20 years. One of the element which I've always felt very critical for the organization is talent, right? And talent attraction has become one of the major, I would say, one of the key areas which every organization is focusing upon, and HR is leading it from the front. In your experience, how do you see the whole talk and debate about talent attraction in today's ecosystem? Do you see it, what talent attraction meant 20 years back or during the course of this 20 years, and what you see today? Has it changed drastically?
Yeah, it certainly has changed drastically. So back then, I think a couple of nice posters with some nice pictures, would really do the job of, creating an employer branding for the employers. But it's no more about that. And thanks to technology, right? People want to see what are the core values of the organization. How is that materializing with people? Well, that is not enough. Are they getting the right exposure? Are they getting the freedom of work? Are they getting the flexibility? Plus, of course, are they visionary as an employer, right? Are they going to get the exposure in their role to do things that would help them 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead? They want to be able to learn things that are forward looking. And but at the same time, we also need the flexibility, and of course you need to be really competitive with your comp and benefits as well. So it's
Right.
really a package deal anymore, and not just about work life balance and just one thing or the other. One great picture won't really help anymore, for sure.
You touched upon a couple of elements. One is the comp and ben,
Yep.
right? Now,
Yep.
today, from an organization perspective, it's just not the monetary benefits what they're trying to communicate to the talent, but a lot of emphasis has been
Yeah.
there even on the non-monetary elements of the benefits an individual can realize by working within the organization, right? Now, what do you feel from a talent's perspective when they're evaluating a particular job opportunity, when they're looking to decide whether they should go for this job offer or should they go for another job offer, right? How important is having a perfect balance between the monetary and the non-monetary elements? And second, what are some of the non-monetary benefits which are
Yeah.
very critical from a candidate's perspective when they're evaluating a job offer?
Yeah. I think the COVID era has brought in a lot of awareness in terms of what are the benefits that are getting put across to them on the table, right? Pre which people would always look at that, okay, we are okay with whatever is there, not there, sorts of it, right? But post COVID, and of course, the massive exposure that all industries, at least most of the industries, have had with regard to the work from home, right? That has really opened a door for looking keenly at the benefits that are coming along with the package. Earlier people would just be more focused on the compensation and compare apple to apple just about the
Right.
monetary compensation that they're going to get when hopping from one job to other, right? But now especially I think the awareness, I'm not saying the awareness wasn't there, but I think has massively increased post the COVID era in terms of what are the insurances that you would be covered at, what is the risk coverage for me as an individual that I get as a benefit along with my compensation package. And in terms of the work life integration, right, like work from home was a, a thing of rare in most of the companies in the pre-COVID eras, but right now it's a given, right? And the world has shown that you can really do it from working from home 100% for a lot of industries. So while that has worked in some favor for some organizations as well, that they look at hiring a talent pool that is multi-geography, really bringing down the constraint of borders of states or a particular office, so to say so. But in terms of also the work life balance, people now expect that we know that if we want, we ask, we can be obliged and we can be given the real work from home. So it benefits are now come in different forms, right? One is the secure sense of security, which will come through your insurances, term life coverages, accident insurances, hospitalization insurances, mental well-being benefits, and so on and so forth, right? So that is one. Then comes some of the benefits that meet your sense of belonging, right? What is it the organization is valuing me? Like, say, for example, this is something that I'd introduced with my previous organizations pre-COVID as well. But I think we have our standard leave benefits that everybody gets, right? But what is important is that we force fit a leave for employees' birthday, for an employee's wedding anniversary, right? So if you
Right.
don't take that leave, you lose out on the leave. There's no carry forward system for it, right? So that's like kind of work life integration, because people will go back and enjoy their day there with their family, and nothing counts more than that. And of course there are some added benefits that you get, like some voucher, or you can, depending on the organization's budget, we build on different things that we can add on along with the leave for that particular day. So one is the sense of belongingness, that some benefits can really help. In terms of well-being, now it is also extended to we adding medical checkups. Depending on the age group, the recurrence is decided, right? Where if it's a very younger group, then you sponsor it for once in 2 years, 3 years, and then as the age brackets increase, you decrease the tenure and give them more recurrence of it, right? So if say anybody who was 40, you give them a yearly medical checkup. So now what happens is when you compare on your movement, right? You will compare your salary, but then you will also realize that this medical checkup could be a 2, 4, 5,000 rupees, right? As a retail, if
Yeah.
I have to go and get as well. But just that feeling, right, that I am not getting that benefit over here,
Right.
but versus I'm getting this benefit over here. So it is not the value of 2, 3, 4, 5,000, but it is the feeling that you have created as an employer about a sense of security, a sense of belonging that extends towards them. And also as the IT industry has started, right, a lot of people are in the age group which is a sandwich zone, right? So there are some very interesting organizations which are coming up with services that will help people who are in the zone. What is sandwich zone? Is basically, you are young parents, you have to attend to your kids who are probably, infant toddlers or teenagers, pre-teenagers as well. But also you have aging parents and their medical requirements, or your support that you need to give to them. At the end of the day, everybody is human, they have so much so bandwidth, right? So
Yes.
you tie up with such organizations that will leverage some services to your employees, either sponsored or at discounted rate for your people, right? So such things that really prevail deep into your lives, those benefits I think really can't be replace the monetary value of it, unless and until it's like really exorbitant and you're looking at other factors as well, right? So I think these certain benefits are really, really helpful for the employee to feel rooted with the organization.
You touched upon one very critical aspect of the overall perks, that is about the sandwich category folks, right? A follow-up question to that would be, today at the organization, you have multi-generational workforce, right? You have millennials, you have Gen Z, you have Gen X, you also have certain representation from baby boomers,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
From an organization perspective, how you strike that perfect balance so that the perks, what you're offering, the benefits, what you're offering beyond the monetary element, it appeals to every section of the workforce. What is that thought process? What goes behind designing an holistic, comprehensive benefit policy appealing to all the categories of the people or the generation what we have at work?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question and actually very relevant. So what happens is most of the times at organization level and design level, right? We have to force fit the benefits, right? Standard, cut, copy, paste sort of it. Well, to each their own. No one is right, no one is wrong as well, right? Because all these also percolate with regards to budget and the culture, company culture, and all of that. But I think the way forward, right, how it is being looked at, and something that we're working on, is that while budget is a thing for sure, right? With every organization, every resource, every cost counts and all of that. But practically, like you said, that every generation is very different, right? Now, say
Right.
for example, for freshers, we really have to make them understand the importance and value of investing in good insurances, right? Not only having insurance, but also we also introduce a specific top up policy, because they say, right, you're just one disease away from poverty.
Right.
And god forbid, where no one should, but if something happens, then of course we as employers also feel very responsible to extend that support, and how much can we do and things like that. So the ideal way is that we plan over plan for them, right? One is of course the right insurance plans that we really leverage for our employees, but also introduce top up options that they can self invest into. The trend that we've seen is that mostly the freshers and millennials, the Gen Z and the baby boomers wouldn't really be so keen on top up. They don't understand. Parents are still very in the front end of responsibilities. They are just coming up and all of that. So we have to inculcate that awareness and all of that. So, but the way forward is, you can't force fit things, but you can have basic insurances as a standard package, but you can have a flexi basket, right? You fix a budget of what is your benefits bucket and budget going to be, and then depending on the age group, you give certain people options, right? So either you increase this benefit, or take a particular sandwich policy, or you go in for a discount, you get a discounted benefit, tie up with the vendor. Also we would have early parents, right? So they would need support with child care. So some certain tie-ups with creches and the play schools of today, which are not very cheap as well, right? So everybody needs that support. So the way forward to address that multi-generation would be to have a really flexi benefits option, where you can pick and choose what caters to your requirement today. Now, if I don't have a toddler, what am I going to do with the preschool discounts, right? That's really not going to help me. So if I rather go in for elders care program, where with some I have the organization has a tie up with a particular vendor, and I can opt for that and get certain discounts, and that is part of my benefit package. So I can opt for that, right? Or I can opt for higher insurance coverage, depending on the benefit options that the organizations can come up with. So I think the way forward that would really be at this point in time is what I'm looking at.
Oh, I really like this idea about having a flexi basket where every individual can choose the kind of benefits they want to avail depending upon their personal
Yes.
objectives, goals, and that's the kind of freedom what they can have at the workplace. So pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Just adding on to that, you know, working from home. That's the flexibility what talent has been looking in today's job market as well. I think one of the good things, bad things, what COVID also introduces the whole concept of work from home. Pre-COVID, there was a notion that work from home will not be successful, but I think with the technology advancement, with people's adaptability, the working from home or working remotely has become a reality,
Yeah.
and a lot of organizations are seeing a lot of positive outputs coming with this mode of engagement. But at the same time, there's a lot of question marks being asked and raised regarding the moonlighting coming up, whether the towards the employee productivity alignment to the organizational culture, right? So you being the director HR, I'm sure you would be involved in a lot of strategic decisions. Now, do you still believe that this work from home flexibility is still continues to be one of the major factor in attracting and retaining talent in today's job market?
It's true. It's certainly at this point in time, from an employee perspective, it's certainly looked at as a great attractive option, right? Like if I get a work from home, I think that I save on my transportation, I save on a lot of logistics, I save a lot of shopping requirements, for my wearables and presentability at office, sorts of it, right? So yes, and plus of course, it is really really beneficial for people who are not really based out of metros and tier one and tier twos, right? People who are based in tier three, tier fours, they get the benefit of being at their hometowns and being able to still attract a very good work opportunity plus a good work package because of the remote option, right? Which was not as easy thing of the past at this point in time. So yes, from an employee perspective, certainly it's looked at as a great, great thing. But I think work from home is great, but it has both sides to it, right? It has
Right.
its own set of pros and has its own lowlights as well, right? To say so, I think it is very important to strategize as for the organization, right? For the culture that you want to bring in. What is it that you really need, right? Are you going to be a remote first organization, or are you going to be an organization that 100% needs a work from office? Or are you going to be a hybrid organization promoting some flexibility, promoting some remote talent on an exception basis? What is it, right? So there are multiple aspects to it. One, of course, is what are my key business requirements, right? If my and which phase of business is my organization. If I'm at a phase in my business is at a phase where I need people to have highly effective communication, I need my people to be highly collaborative, there has to be constant updates and all of that. While the technology certainly enabled all of the collaboration possibilities and all, but it cannot be negated that sitting across face to face in the same floor, around each other, the collaboration is really really more easy, and you don't have any sorts of walls that are built around you, right? Because we're working in a culture where people come from different diversities, people come from different generations, right? So to everybody work together, it's not a thing that is very easy as well. It needs to be built, it needs to make it happen, right? And that's why the people engagement is one big focal area at any point in time, pre-COVID, post-COVID, doesn't matter, right? Now, how do you really
Right.
keep people engaged? If people are constantly going to be in their own respective remote work locations and not going to meet each other as often as possible. But yes, we have video calls that will enable that, right? But forcefully sitting together in the same premises and doing their own thing versus just logging in for an hour or two, right? It certainly has its differences, is what I feel. But like if I'm an organization where I need very very niche talent, for me to get the right talent is more important than from where the talent is going to be functioning from, then I would obviously prioritize if I'm getting the exact talent that I need, who's sitting in an extreme north versus another team member who's sitting in extreme south, but I can, as a leader, make that collaboration happen virtually. So be it, right? So it's always business first as well in my mind. So having a business first approach is important because you really lay down what is right now the most important thing for you, right? Can you afford to negate the pros of work from home at this point in time? Yes or no, right? And then you design your strategy around that. From an employee point of view, while I think it is a great opening, especially for, like I said, the rural area talent as well, because I've seen people who are really, really remote in, like, say, tier three, tier four towns get the opportunities that they really deserve, that they otherwise
Right.
would not have had the exposure to, right? And if they had to move so many locations and bear that cost of living and plus staying that away from home, it wouldn't really benefit them, right? But now
Right.
you're able to capture that talent, which is great advantage. The other area of benefit that I'm strongly seeing is with women, right? There are a lot of women talent who can work, but they are constrained because of the responsibilities that they have, right? If they have a toddler around the house or if they have elder parents at home, now between the couple, sometimes, one has to really make the choice. If there is support required at home, then you have to be required at home. Or if they're
Right.
going through certain health conditions, right, that doesn't really support them to commute outside every day. It's not just with women, even with the male talent as well. I see there are some really talented folks, but they have some medical condition that they can't really get up and go to office every day. So negating that requirement has opened up doors to really a different talent pool altogether. So if you're benefiting from that, great. If that is what works for me, that works for me, right? So it is really important to design what is it that I'm, as an organization, benefiting out of it. You know, what are my pros that I want to focus on? What are my priorities at this point in time? When I say my, I clearly refer to organization, right? But at the same time, collaboration is something that you'll have to be focused on and make that happen,
Right.
and that has to fall into bucket of every leader of the organization, not only the one that's managing being part of any function and every function of the organization, for sure. The other thing that I would also focus on is the one not so good side of work from home that I'm seeing is that it is not really helping the mental well-being for some people, right? They want to work from home, but there are situations where they'll end up overworking themselves because they're in the stress of proving that I am on top of everything, saying yes to everything, saying yes to work pressure, right? Because they're not going to be traveling 2 hours, unlike other people
Right.
who would be, right? So that has been a little edgy for sure. And what happens is when there's a process that you are in, right? When you go to office, you wake up, you get ready, you travel, and you show up, and in that process you it's your own journey, it's your own cycle of re-energizing as well. And then when you end your work, right, you pack off, travel, and go back. Well, I'm not even going to touch on the topic of travel exertion because I know in some cities people travel for 2 hours, and what about that stress? But yeah, I'm going to keep that aside for a bit. But just to touch on the process, right? You pack off, you go back home, and you that's your way of re-energizing back into your personal space. But working at home, with flipping open and flipping down your system, sometimes that process really misses out. So when you miss out on that process, I'm not saying that you can't do without that process, but you'll have to identify what replaces that process. How do you
Right.
energize yourself at the start of the day? How do you disconnect from work at the end of the day and go back into your personal spaces? You have to really disengage mentally and stay focused at work at the same point in time. So that is something that the burden of which falls on the individual to learn how to deal with that, right? And
Right.
extending to, of course, the need for mental well-being facilities as well.
You know,
Yeah,
I think
that's
you
another side.
perfectly brought out the pros and cons of working from home, right? The core remains that yes, it's the organization's priority, depending upon what organization is looking at, what their business goals and objective is, basis that work flexibility policy should be in place. At the same time, yes, on one hand, the work from home give access to a larger talent pool. It helps organization to bring in more diverse talent, especially women, into the workplace,
Yeah,
opening up the job opportunities for the rural part of the ecosystem. At the same time, the employee burnout could be a challenge which
yeah,
work from home can really, have an adverse impact upon. At the same time, the mental well-being could also be questioned in the work from home scenario. So I think basis that, would it be safe to say the hybrid way of working is what the future holds for everyone, wherein there has to be a perfect balance in working from office and working from home, and
yeah,
that's the ecosystem what we all, be it the candidates, be it the employers, need to adapt themselves into.
yeah,
You cannot expect 100% work from office pre-COVID days, and neither like 100% work from home ecosystem. It
yeah.
has to be a balance between the both, and that's how the future of work is gonna shape up.
Yeah, that certainly is our reality today as well, right? Even if we are asking people to come to office, we always have room for exceptions and flexibilities and all. And on a funny note, that's given rise to a new skill, right? Which says, well, I can work from office. So
Yeah.
that's funny, yeah.
No, absolutely. And one important thing which again it brought out is the importance of communication.
Yeah,
When we're talking about talent
right.
attraction, talent retention, on one hand we're talking about the various perks which are available for the individuals. We are talking about the flexibility and how they want to work upon. Very important for an organization it is to communicate extensively the framework or the boundaries around which these all benefits and these policies would fit into, right? Now, as an HR strategic brain behind all the policies, how you go about communicating these benefits, these policies, and the boundaries to your employees, what best practices would you recommend for an audience?
Yeah. So, one thing that I learned in my career was, when you ask about compensation specifically, right? uh, there is, or even benefits for a matter of fact, right? There's never that if you ask someone, hey, are you happy with this? Do you feel this is enough? I would be stupid to answer that yes, right? Because I always hope for more. That's
Oh,
life. That's
absolutely.
humans, right? So it is not about asking, are you happy about it, right? Is this enough? Because it's never going to be enough, right? If you go and ask like the premium employers as well, paying the best of the operative cost to run an infrastructure, the best of the benefits as well, would they ask for more? Yes, they certainly would. So I think it is about how you communicate about your benefits, right? It is not about what you feel about the benefit. It is your perception about that benefit. It is your perception about that compensation, right? It is that matters, that you feel contented, whether you may not really be vocally say yes. You know what? Please don't give me more. I wouldn't find one soul who would do that, right? But to say,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think they're good, they're not bad, is an achievement, is in reality. right? Because nobody's going to say, no, 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 don't do more than this. So it is about how people perceive about about their own compensation, how people perceive about the benefits that they have. Now, coming to compensation, that's a little bit um, split between the HR and the leaders that can really contribute to that as well, right, on a daily basis. But talking about the benefits, right, I think it is very crucial to explain that, as an organization, we have chosen to bring this benefit and make the most of it for you all. And it is that bond that you create that explains to the people that, my organization is doing the best of what they can give to us, right? Like, say, for example, pre-COVID, say we did not have a benefit that was to have paid lunches for people, right? We had a canteen and people would come and they would, purchase their own food and go ahead with that. We did not have
Right.
policy. We did not have some benefits on work-life integration, right? Which is the one that I told you earlier, right? A paid leave in addition to their leave plan for the birthday, for their wedding anniversary, to go back to their families and celebrate. We celebrate even the 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, not by just an award, but we give them additional paid leaves and certain amount, which would only be reimbursed if they travel with their family, right? So it is to make them take that experience that they would really cherish. So it is about how you perceive that. When you go through that experience is when you value it. If you don't, you really miss out on it 100%,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I was talking about the lunches, right? So now post COVID, we want people to come back to office, right? We want people to collaborate. We want people to feel better about coming here. We have a great office setup, best of the amenities given over here. So we also understood that it was tough juggling for them. So the organization decided we'll bear the cost of it. So now the meals are sponsored for our people. So it is about how they perceive, now they look at it as like great. They see a value add in it. They don't see the amount of the benefit. They see the
Yeah.
benefit, right? Because you could afford 80, 100, 150, 200, 250, whatever your meal cost. From you, we earn enough to arrange that meal for ourselves. But it is the convenience and it is the perception of the benefit that matters more than the value of the benefit or the
Mhm.
compensation as well. So it is for us to create the right perceptions about the compensation that you're giving and the benefits that you're giving that would really see the ROI, right? That is one. Now, there can be certain benefits that you start off, and maybe very relevant today, tomorrow or day after. But I think what I believe in doing is a sensible assessment of year on year and just a pulse check and an assessment of every benefit, right? Say for you need to see the ROI coming in some way, right? It should be satisfaction or the feedback that is coming in from people on a particular benefit. Like, say for example, in one of the organizations I was with, we had this policy of doing health checkup, medical checkup before the joining, right? Now, for practical reasons, more often than not, you have people who need to join you very quickly in a day or 2 day or 7 days, or or they, if they're joining only 2 3 weeks later also, they don't really get the time to go and do the medical checkup. Then there were leeways given to it. People would go and do the medical checkup. The reports would come to us after their joining, after a significant period of time. Now, also, these medical checkups are not something that will detect anything and everything, right? There are certain parameters that they would, focus on, and those will be the checkups too, however intense you can be. Now, there would be situations that, the employees having a certain medical condition, and that doesn't come out immediately after the joining. It comes out after 1 to 3 months, right? And then we question what was the use of doing that medical checkup. So I saw no ROI in it. So I had to really rally through with all my leaders and customer policies that we don't need this, let's give this away, let's just do a fitment declaration thing, and we rather spend that money because the negatives that were coming for me from that medical test were marginal, very marginal. And the actual issues that were probably getting detected after joining, employees having some medical issues, were not really getting detected in the medical test any which ways. So what was the ROI of it? Nothing, right? And we're spending so much. That's the cost that the organization is going through. But the employee is not going to look at it as benefit because that's a process that you want, right?
Right.
So you can't really expect an employee to be satisfied about getting that benefit. They're like, what about it? You want me to go through it? So I went through it deeply. So rather, I had to rally around it with all of that, and we ended that particular process. And I said, give me that money, and we rather give that as a medical checkup for, like I said, depending on the age group, once in 3 years, once in
Hmm.
2 years, once in every year, depending on the age group that people belong to. Now, that cost translates into an employee satisfaction rather, because that gets
Yes.
looked at as a benefit. So it is the perception that you create around anything and the actual value that it is adding. So it's important for you to have a strong pulse and understand the ROI of every spend that you're doing over any particular benefit that is happening. So that is something that is, I think, helpful.
No, I think measuring the ROI for the perks and benefits and then
Yeah.
improving on the elements which are relevant, which are being accepted by the employers, which or the perceived value for which of the perks is higher for the employers, and then making a continuous improvement in your overall packaging. I think that's pretty interesting, and that's the way I think organization would be looking forward to evolve their non-monetary perks as they
Yeah.
fight the war for talent attraction. My last question, which I would love to hear your perspective, is from an employee perspective, right? What would be those top three points which they should keep in mind or they should give more weightage to when they're evaluating a new opportunity? The reason I'm asking this is today, most of the job seekers would have
Yeah.
multiple job offers with
So,
them, right? They are confused whether should I go for this offer, should I go for this offer, should I only give consideration to my fixed compensation what I'm getting, but monetary, as we have spoken about, is just the money which should be
yeah.
given importance and preference to. So from your experience, what would be those golden nuggets or the tips you would give to the potential job seekers when they're looking to make their next career move?
Good one. So it also depends, a lot depends on which level of experience you're joining at, right? But nonetheless, if I have to pick some things that are very generic for everybody, is I think one is to really understand what is the business into. Unless and until you understand the organization's business and you understand at least the high levels of their current financial status, right, you would not know what you're signing up for, right? So to understand that, what is this business line, how am I going to be able to contribute to that particular business line, where is my role going to be, because no matter what role you are playing in any organization, every role needs to understand how their role is contributing to the overall line of function, to the overall line of business, right? And if that excites you personally, right? If you feel, oh, I have four ideas, that, they can do this, they can do that, and all of that, that's when you feel that, okay, you can align yourself into that. When you jump in later into the deeper handling of your role, you will be able to think more about it, because if it is not exciting you, okay,
Hmm.
like say for example, just a very very random example, right? Like say for example, if I have absolutely no understanding into the mechanics of an aeroplane and the industry and all of that, right? And if I get opportunity from a company that's very industrial, that's into manufacturing aircrafts, right? Sounds fab. Who wouldn't love it? But my knowledge and my inclination, if is not towards it, then I would always be in a space of blank. You will end up doing a little limited. you'll have to research more, you'll have to learn more of it. So you have to, if you can align yourself into the line of business and the industry, that's the first hinge for you to check for yourself. If not that, then you start learning more and you have to start researching more. Either you are naturally excited or you're adaptive. If you think you can adapt yourself into being excited towards something, great. Yeah, but that doesn't happen for many, right? Don't Everybody doesn't push themselves. Oh, I have to be
Yeah.
excited about this. It
Yeah.
comes naturally. So for me, that I think would be one great checkpoint. Two would be the role, right? If you're going to understand the length and breadth of the role, and if you think that that role will demand something more from you, what you're doing as of today, right? That's where you see the scope of learning. Or if it demands, if or the length and breadth of the role is similar to what you're doing, but it needs you to deliver something more and deliver something very differently, either you see scope of learning or you see a great deal of challenge that is there in executing whatever you have to execute. That will help you grow, right? For many people, people think growth is by designation, by salary. Yes, societal perception, all of that has growth by designation and salary.
Yes.
But as an individual growth, that only happens. I can be a director of HR from year one to my next 50 years also, right? The designation is not what is going to help me grow. But my personal journey, my individual growth, my individual experiences, my individual exposures, that's what is going to help me grow. So assess the length and breadth of the role. Understand if that you see has a scope of learning or a challenge that you're excited about. There will be your individual growth as well, and that is what will lead you to get successful ahead. Right? Success will follow only after your individual growth. It is not with salary that you will grow. It is not with designation that you will grow. If you grow individually, everything else follows. So that is something people really need to remember. Yeah. So the third thing I think would be, of course, depending on what life phase you are at, right? And understanding if, yes, this is something, because in certain times there are high pressure jobs, right? You need to really give it all. If I am a youngster out of college and that's the kind of role, that's the kind of organization that I'm joining, that's something that I can happily sign up for, right? If I don't work hard now, then when? But if
Right.
I'm at a phase of time where the family is expanding, or I need to be able to focus on my parents and there's some attention needed at home, and if I want to assess some room for flexibility, that the work life balance situation, I think third, that is something that people should pre-assess. People, I've seen people not assessing that and signing up for things and then struggling with either work or their personal lives. So that's something that they should think through.
I think the most important element for me was whether I'm getting that excitement naturally. I don't have to
Yeah,
push myself. Am I getting that
right,
kick? Wow, I have this offer with me. I have this
yeah,
opportunity for me. I should go for it. I think
yeah,
that natural instinct or the natural reaction should be a good indicator for an individual to think, yes, this is my
yeah,
dream role. This is the opportunity I should really go after.
right.
So makes a lot of sense, Roshni. I mean, thank you, Roshni, for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. Some great topics and the pointers you brought around the talent attraction, talent retention perspective, and that too from both from the employer's perspective and also from the employee perspective. So, thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast and sharing your valuable insights and
Pleasure.
perspective. Really value your time and thank you for being part of this show.
Thank you, Harshal. Likewise.
Excellent. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in the HR
Thank you.
Insider. This is Harshal, your host, signing off. Stay connected for more deep dives into the fascinating world of human resources. Take care.